She was on the show Wednesday, kind enough to join us now on the program. Let's go to the Zoom machine and say hello to Eric Nicksick. There he is. Eric, can you even put into words? What's up, man? Monday, it's Monday morning still in Vegas after an insane week, I presume, in Southern California. Like, how do you even put into words how you're feeling on this Monday?
I feel great. I actually I'm here still. I stayed and rented a house in Newport. So my wife and two of my kids stayed out to hang out for a little bit to kind of decompress. And, I got to get around some family and, people that really love and care about you. So that they drove out from San Diego. Some live here. And it was just nice to kind of get the little group together and hang out and decompress for a few days.
So, after a big fight like that, how much time do you give yourself to decompress? Because as we talked about on Wednesday, you've got a litany of other people waiting on you, and they've got big fights. So do you take a mental break for a day or two?
Well, usually for me, Ariel, I take Sunday off, but I'm back to work on Monday. I have a Monday practice that I run. But obviously with the circumstances of this camp and the magnitude of what we went through, I decided to take a couple of days off. And I told all the guys that I was going to do that. So Sean Strickland and Puna already know that I'm going to be here for about another day or two, and I'll be back to the gym by Wednesday.
Would you say, and you're still, I think, sort of like, and let me know if you disagree, sort of in the embryonic stages of your head coaching career. Hopefully you're going to do this for another 30, 40 years, right? And have many, many big fights. Was this the most stressful buildup to a big fight in your young career?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like when we talked on Wednesday, I had so much relief and clarity because we knew what our future was going to be when we got to LA. We knew that we were going to fight, but everything was still up in the air, and we really didn't know what we were going to do. And so once we got there and we knew, like, okay, it's on, we're fighting, everything kind of slowed down. So the anxiety and the what ifs and the this and that. I mean, it was a good 3 weeks of dealing with the knee injury, and then obviously, game planning for Cyril Gane for the last 5 months. That man's giving me nightmares and trying to come up with a way to beat him. So, man, it just was such a relief. And I think once the fight was over, it's funny because like you were one of the first dudes I wanted to text. I'm like, it's probably late. I don't want to wake him up.
Me?
You're like, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
But it was just a relief to kind of get through everything and to get through it together.
Okay, so let's talk about the knee if we can. You guys did a great job of keeping it under wraps for the most part. When did it first happen?
It was about 3.5 weeks ago, I believe. It was during sparring. And, Ali had a big heavyweight come in town. He was a guy that was going to be on the contenders. We worked with him on Monday at more of a grappling day. He was a great training partner and a great look for Francis. And then on Tuesday, Francis was standing southpaw. Francis was kind of piecing him up a little bit, and I could tell the guy was getting anxious. So the guy shot a very, very low single. It wasn't like him trying to be mean or anything like that. It was just, him taking a shot, but it was really low, and went on to Francis's lead leg, which was his right leg being southpaw, and with the shin pads and the knee pad on, his knee kind of buckled funny. And he cringed and grabbed it, and then got up and kind of moved it around a little bit, and then actually finished up the rounds. And then we went to the PI and got it looked at. The next day he had an MRI, and it was a full MCL tear. And then he had damage to the ACL as well. So once we heard that, in my mind, I was like, well, I don't know how you're going to be able to move around. So we just kind of took it one day at a time. He ended up getting some treatment done on the knee. And really it was just a one day at a time process for us, kind of waiting for our fate and figuring out how the hell we're going to do things. But all during that time, Ariel, he never really lost sight of what he wanted to do, and that was the fight.
How close was he to pulling out?
I don't really think he was very close. And I, myself, Dewey, Markel, we all suggested that he should.
Wow.
That we didn't think it was the right move to take this fight. But, we had that like come to Jesus moment Friday before he left. And I was emotional, man. Like I wanted him to understand, like, dude, this isn't about us. This isn't about a paycheck. This isn't about anything other than the safety for your health and the rest of your career. And as your coach, I have to vocalize that. I can't just sit here and not say something. But if you tell me because you know your body. If you tell me that you can fight and you can make this happen, then I'm not going to mention this shit again. And we're going full steam ahead. And you're going to have my support no matter what. But if something goes wrong, I wouldn't feel right about myself for not saying how I felt. It just wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night, Ariel, if I didn't. So we had that kind of moment. I know, I wouldn't say he was mad by any means. I can just tell it was just kind of a downing moment where it was right before we were supposed to start training. And we get done and he was like, well, training kind of sucks now. He was just like, I don't really want to be here. But we actually got through the training. I had asked him because he had been wearing like this NFL style, like an offensive lineman knee brace. And I was like, bro, you can't wear that. And I know why we wore it. We needed to keep the stability and get the workouts in and stuff. But I was like, listen, I want to see you move around without that knee brace on, because I think that thing's giving you a false sense of security. So let's do this practice without the knee brace. Let's see how you move around. You're on the canvas at the PI. I know it's a little slippery, but let's try to get some movement in. And bro, I swear he looked great. He looked great. So it was just it was a little bit more and more to be promising, and the outlook was starting to look a little bit better. But we agreed that when we got to LA, we would go to the doctor the moment we landed. We didn't even get on the UFC on the shuttle or the car service. We got our own ride and we went to the doctor, and he came out of the office and I could just tell him when he walked out, I was like, oh, we're fighting. So it was that. And I never brought it up again. I never asked how it was doing. I didn't, look at it. I didn't make it any other way. I didn't want to put it on his mind. I just wanted to focus on the fight.
That is wild to land. You guys landed on Tuesday?
Yep.
So up until that point, like you're taking off, you're landing, and you're still kind of holding out hope that you guys are okay. What happens if that doctor comes out and is like, hey, I don't think you guys should fight?
I think he actually did say that.
Oh, really?
I think so, because he went into the doctors alone. And afterwards I said, what did he say? And he's like, well, and so I said, all right, bro, I know we're here and I know why we're here. And I believe in your heart and I believe in your story. And this is going to make for a better story, to be honest with you. And I feel like we can pull this out. So let's go. Let's do it.
Did you have to dramatically change the game plan as a result of the knee injury?
Not necessarily the game plan, Ariel, as much, but it was more of the training. So, we are a grappling heavy gym by pedigree alone. And and with that grappling also, it improves your cardio. You have insane amount of cardio for the practices that we run. And that changed a lot. So that did worry me, because he was, looking unbelievable in the room at what he was doing. And really it was his recovery that was impressive to me. So, credit to the guys with the PI and then the training that he was getting over at Extreme Couture. But then when you change that about 3.5 weeks out, he couldn't really jump rope. He couldn't do a lot of things that we were doing to get the cardio. That was a little bit worrisome. But, I know that we worked so hard on the skill set that you got to see on Saturday. So I was hoping just kind of the autopilot thing would kick in. And it was always part of the game plan. But when it presented itself, then I wanted to stick to it. When we got the first takedown, I was like, I walked in the cage. I think it was right after the third round. And I could see Cyril walking back and peeling himself off the canvas and walking back to the corner. And I was looking at his body language. And Francis is walking back to the corner. And I was literally standing in the middle of the octagon. And I yelled at Francis and pointed at Gon. And I go, look at this motherfucker. He's broke. Look at him. And I wanted to say it loud enough that Cyril heard me. And I wanted to say it loud enough to Francis hear me. And Francis looked back and I see this grin on his face. I sit him down on the stool and I go, hey, we got ourselves something here, don't we? He goes, we sure do. And I go, let's get right back to it then.
Wow, that is amazing, man. By the way, UFC tried to reschedule the fight. They knew about it, right? You're at the PI. Did they weigh in or no? Or did they not know about it?
They knew about it.
Okay.
Yeah, they knew about it. No, they're not going to do us any favors, bro.
They're like, please, can we maybe do this on January 1st instead of January 22nd? Let's expedite this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so and just curious, before we, I just trying to get the picture of the whole entire week. So I asked you sort of a variation of this question, but now that it's over, because you could be a lot more open, I totally respect that. at any point in addition to the knee, and maybe when you mix the knee story into it all, were you worried about his mental state? Were you worried that this was just too much for him to handle?
Not really. Not really, to be honest with you. And to be clear, man, he kind of calmed me down with his attitude and the way he was carrying himself. And, I talked to Jay Heron about it, and Jay Heron elaborated on some stories that, him and throughout his career. And then I talked to Randy, and Randy told me some of the stories that he went through while he was having his title run and some of the adversities that hit him. And both of them said, hey, bro, there's just something about certain fighters that no matter what's going on in their lives, the moment they get in the dressing room, they're able to just disconnect to all that and go out there and be a fighter. And that's where they feel their best. And that's when they feel they're at home. So you have to try to harness those things and make him feel like his team's behind him. So as much as I was nervous and I had this nervous energy, I didn't want that to feed off to him. I wanted to keep him focused on the task at hand. So, I mean, from what I saw out of him, he was just ice water the whole time.
Were you aware that come Saturday, people were talking about this on Twitter and that it was starting to become a thing?
I knew, being a Vegas boy, I knew when I started to see the line move.
Interesting. Because, yeah, I
knew.
I got to tell you, like, a ton of people hit me up, several people saying this is the word around town of Vegas. Now, at that point, I'm not bothering. I didn't look at it as like, if it is, it is. God bless. But it feels like there was someone kind of ratting him out, or I don't know how someone finds out about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to happen inherently, especially when, to me, the UFC PI is kind of flawed by design. I mean, they're a great facility, don't get me wrong, but it's a very, the training room itself is glass, so you can be working out, but you can also see Francis getting his knee taped or getting treatment done. Any athlete that's in there. So if there's 7 or 8 athletes that happen to be in there and they're seeing this man get taped up or getting treatment done or something worked on his knee, it's bound to happen. It's just flawed by design. It's not them trying to be mean or anything like that, but there's enough eyes in there and enough people in there that eventually some stuff like that's going to happen. So we were aware of that, and he's walking around with a knee brace on, and so sees it. They're going to tell 3 people, and we had enough time in between where I think it was about 3 weeks where I figured it was going to get out enough. But I told my wife that I was like, I'm going to keep an eye on this betting line, because once you see this line move, you're going to know it's out.
Yeah, that is a Vegas mind. And so, okay, so we're starting to get to the fight, and I would imagine, do you have to tell the commission this, because you guys have to get the knee pads cleared, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I was a little bit ahead of the curve when there was a practice we had at the PI. It's probably about a week and a half before the fight. I called Herzog. And I say, hey, Jay, I need some help on some information. What do you guys allow for as far as knee braces go? And I knew they had knee braces you're allowed, but I didn't know like what the descriptions were. And he's like, neoprene knee brace, those are allowed. So I said to Francis that night, I said, hey, I want you to buy like 5 different versions of these knee braces, just a bunch of them. We'll try them on. We'll see which ones we like, and we're going to bring all of them out. But I need a pair. I need one for each knee. So bring them all out to California. So when we go to weigh-ins, when the commission's at weigh-ins, you need to get those checked and let them decide. They weren't there to be able to check the knee braces, or maybe he didn't bring them. So the night of the fight, which I did not want this to happen, I wanted this to be cleared before we got to the fight. But we brought him in, and then Herb Dean took him in the back. He took all the ones and came back and said, hey, these ones are approved. You can use these ones. And that's what we did. And it happened to be the one that he was most comfortable with. So we went with those. Yeah.
Very smart to wear one on each knee. No bullseye there, right? Yeah, that was smart. That was smart. And even on the broadcast, they were talking about, I was like, oh, damn, these guys got some inside information. Could I ask left or right?
I was right.
It was right. Okay. I was trying to see if one was like more swollen or something like that, but impossible. I was surprised they were talking about it so openly on the broadcast, because the rest of the world had no idea what was going on. But if you had been following the story that day, you kind of were prepared for it. So what are you thinking in the first and second round? What's going through your mind?
I kind of had an idea. So I'll always go and break ourselves down first. And before I start a game plan, I'll try to sit in the opposite corner and try to figure out what they're going to do to beat us. And that was pretty much what I had expected from them, was to sag heavy on Francis's arms, to make him pummel, to try to get lactic acid build up into his arms, to try to take some of the punching power away, and try to wear on his cardio. But the way we run our practices, we implement pummeling and cardio all throughout the grappling classes. So when you grapple, we have to get up, you have to pummel, you have to shadow box, you have to do all these things. So we were trying to stay ahead of the curve already just by our standard of what we do in our practices. So when I saw that, I was like, okay. And when we sat down on the stool, I was like, hey, we already knew what was coming. So let's make the adjustments to what we've seen. And then a lot of our game plan was obviously cage control. I wanted him to kind of aim for the center mass, because Ciryl does such a good job of slipping punches and keeping his head offline. But that means his chest will always still kind of be in the same place. So if you can find his chest, we can always come back with the reload off the same side, or to come back with the left hook, depending on which way he slips his head. So Ciryl did such a great job and never really staying in one place. So we couldn't really find him where we wanted him. And that led us to kind of mixing a little bit of the game plan up as we went. But I didn't like the way, I think round one, I thought was very close. In my head, I would have gave it to Ciryl, because that's kind of the way I would corner. Round two was definitely Ciryl. And then round three was where we wanted, my dad would always say in football, get the band playing. We need something to get everybody excited again. And that was the moment when he threw the kick and we caught it. And then that changed the whole trajectory of the fight, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was incredible, because I felt he was down 2-0 and everything's on the line here at this point. And then slowly but surely we start to see wrestler, grappler Francis Ngannou that we've never really seen before. This is incredible. How long have you been holding on to this? I mean, seeing Francis even do like little things like wrist control and stuff like that, I was like, wow, this is great. I mean, going back to this first Stipe fight, the improvement there. How long have you been working, with him on this stuff?
It's been for ages. We've been doing this in the gym since he's been coming to Extreme Couture. Obviously during the pandemic, I had Randy in there quite a bit. So, we were picking Randy Couture's brain on a lot of the wrist control stuff, the Greco stuff. Obviously Dennis Davis and Nate Pettit run a great wrestling practice. And then my Monday practice is just hell. I put guys in the worst positions possible. We'll start half guard backside wrist ride with ground and pound going. So guys are starting into these shit spots and having to work their way out of them, or you're in a dominant position, you have to maintain it. So he's been going at this for a long, long time. I think he's always had a kind of a, I wouldn't say a great jiu-jitsu game, but, for a big guy and what he's able to do when he gets a hold of things, he's actually very, very good at stalling the positions out and keeping guys kind of underneath them, which makes you get kind of almost suffocating. And then that's when other things start to present themselves. So he's been working on these things for a long, long time. But fortunately for us, Errol, he hasn't really had to show it. He's been just going and knocking dudes out. So, we were able to grow this ground game, I think, for the last few years.
Were you ever worried about his cardio? I did notice early on he was breathing heavily out of his mouth. Were you worried about that?
No, I think that I wouldn't say no, I wasn't worried about it, but I knew that if we can get him in, we'll always say schedule your breaks. When are you scheduling your breaks? So you have a big moment or you have something where then when you have to take a second or two, I want you to make sure you're controlling your breathing. Or we'll talk about positional training where if you get them on the ground or you have them on the cage, those are your places of rest where you can breathe in those places, but you can remain active. Like Usman will do those foot stomps, or he'll do shoulder pumps when he has an underhook or head position against the cage. So those are our areas where we say hey, when you get to this spot, I want you to take a second, take a deep breath. The onus is on the person that's underneath you to move. And I want you to settle your weight and just breathe. So those are kind of the things that we set up in the game plan where your pit stops and schedule your breaks to breathe. I knew he was fine in those positions.
What were you thinking when it appeared as though Ciryl was going for that heel hook?
I was giggling. I was like, man. So when we started camp or writing out the game plan or writing out some things, he says to me, hey, Bubba, they're going to go for heel hooks on me. And I said, why? Why do you say that? And he goes, because the jiu-jitsu coach or one of the coaches over there used to always make comments about my feet, how big my feet were, that those are perfect for heel hooks and leg locks.
Wow.
So he goes, I guarantee you they're going to go for my legs. And this is pre-injury. This is us laying out the game plan for camp. So I said, okay, well, let's go over some of those defenses that you like, or which ones do you feel most comfortable with? We don't need to add a bunch of new things. What's your go-tos? And he goes, I like to pull it, sit down on the reap leg and sit there. And I go, okay, great. Let's get a far side underhook and start beating those guys, because they got two hands occupied on one leg. We can use our hands to punch and use it to sit up. So once he went for the leg, I just thought it was kind of a fatal flaw, man, because I have guys in the gym that love to go for leg locks in practice and get the tap. I tell them all the time, like, look, that's not going to happen in a fight. Most guys won't tap to that shit. So you guys are getting a false sense of reality when you guys think these leg locks work over and over and over. In a fight, guys will let their knees pop. They don't care. Half their paycheck's on the line. So don't feel like that's a thing to go for unless it's like a 30-second in the round. So when I saw him go back for that leg, I'm like, oh, dude, you just did us a favor, man. That was a fatal flaw, and we're going to stay in this topside position. So I was very, very happy when he went for that.
Why does he call you Bubba?
So I'm called Bubba by my family. And like my grandfather nicknamed me Bubba because I talk to everybody. He's like, I'm a friendly person. And where my grandpa grew up in the town, there was an old guy named Bubba. So he's like, that's you, you're Bubba. So, and we call each other Bubba. It's kind of a term of endearment and he says it's brother. So, but yeah, we call each other Bubba.
I love it. Were you surprised that they didn't try to attack his knee more? Oblique kicks, all that stuff.
Well, that's a lot of the reasons why we stayed in orthodox. We didn't move too much over into southpaw because we didn't want to expose the right leg to the front side. And it's also why we didn't kick a whole lot either. So initially the game plan was, because of his stance switches in motion, surreal, I wanted to flatten the tires. And that would have consisted of every time he was orthodox and he'd move over to southpaw, going away from us to our rear side, we would have attacked the inside low kick with the right leg to his. And that kind of took that out of the game plan because we couldn't do that. And that was a lot of our game plan for round one, Ariel, was to flatten his tires. And that was like kind of a tough situation to be in because we were leaning heavy on our kicks. And that's something he's really improved on. You saw that in the Stipe fight, was the catch counters with the rear hand parry to the calf kick and things like that. So, it wasn't like, oh man, now what are we going to do? We're screwed. It was just the situational solving. That was really it. How do we do the same thing, but, without that right leg?
It was a brief 10-second moment, but man, I love that moment going into the fifth between you guys. You just telling him, I believe in you. We've been through so much. Can you describe like what is going on in your mind in that moment? Because that's what I was talking to you about on Wednesday. Like I love coaching. I love that bond that you guys have when it's just that loyalty. And I'm so glad that we were, subjected to it. And I hate the fact that people are like, well, look what Fernand said to Cyril. Fernand's a great coach. And it's almost presumptuous of us that we get to pop into your moment with your fighter for 10 seconds and then cast this whole narrative on your relationship with the fighter. It's honestly unfair and it bothers me. We caught you in a beautiful moment there. Can you describe what that moment was like for you?
I think it's sweat equity. And that's the best thing I can describe it, is because it's the time we spend with each other. It's the moments of vulnerability where we can talk and be real, and I can understand your deepest fears and your biggest goals and everything that you've worked for. I believe in it, and when I grab him by his face and look at him in the eyes, it's because it's true. I believe in it. I believe in everything that you've done and to get to this position today. And I just wanted to remind him of that, man. Like this is his story, Ariel. He's gets turned back numerous times. This man had to cross the Sahara Desert, had to cross the ocean 11 tries. In my mind, I'm like, bro, this is only 5 minutes. This ain't shit for you. This is a walk in the park when it comes to Francis Ngannou's story. But sometimes I just wanted to make eye contact with him, let him know that we're here. Me, Dewey, the team, all of us, we believe in you, and we're gonna have our moment. And that was really it, man. It was definitely there was nothing else around me. I just felt like I was in a bubble, and it was just me and him, and the pressure wasn't there. There was nothing there. It was just clarity, and I knew he was gonna go out and get it done.
Man, you are giving me chills. So he wins the fight. It's amazing. The story ends, at least for now. And we find out, obviously, we wait with bated breath to see what happens. The big question is, though, the knee. Do you think he'll need surgery?
So he's going to go, he's still here. He's out here in Cali too with us. He's going to go tomorrow to the doc and get an idea of what the next step is. I don't know how MCLs really work as far as like if it can heal or if it's fully torn. So I would just suggest to get it done. I think just so it doesn't cause you more problems throughout your career. And I don't know what the timeline would be on that, but he's going to find that out tomorrow when he goes to the doctor.
Okay. What do you want to see happen with Francis in the UFC if you had it your way? I know you're not the business guy, right? You're just the coach, but you are very invested in this story. What do you want to see happen?
I want to stay with the UFC. I do, because I want to compete against the best. And, you know, I don't agree with a lot of the things that the promotion has done, but I understand that they're a business as well, and they're trying to do what's right for them. But at the end of the day, like, I think that we as a team, UFC and Team Ngannou, can do a lot of great things together. I really do. But I think that you know, with the competition they have and the promotion that they are, I want to stay there, to be quite fair.
Just a couple more things, and then I'll let you go. What did you think when you saw that Dana White didn't put the belt around his waist?
Honestly, I didn't really think too much about it until afterwards. And the moment I saw Mick in there, I just wanted to stay present in the moment and not think about much other than how happy I was and proud of Francis. But as the night went on, you know, I wish he would have taken the high road and just went in and done it and just been a part of that. Because the last couple of weeks, I felt like Dana and Francis had been mending things. I felt like those two have been trying to become better and heal that relationship. So for him to not be there, again, I don't know his reasons why. I don't know if he got, you know, all of a sudden he had a stomach issue, you know, something. But for him not to be there, you know, I just thought it was just kind of a weak move.
Afterwards, beautiful moment between you and Fernand Lopez. He posted it on his Instagram. Could you share what you guys said to each other?
You know, I just gave him a big hug, man. And as a coach who's been in this sport for 15 years now, I understand the energy and the time and the effort it takes. I understand what it does to your family. I understand what the absence of your, you know, the dad not being around at home. And, you know, I just felt that, man. And I've been on the other side of that, you know? So I just wanted him to understand that, like, look, I have no issue with you. Your situation with Francis is something completely different, but I respect you. I respect your grind. I respect what you're doing over at the MMA factory. I think you should be heralded as one of the best coaches in the world for what you've done with your fighters. I wish him safe travels home, and just gave him a big hug. And you know, I wanted him to know that, like, I care, I guess. I do care. I care about your time, and I care about your energy that you spent on this fight. And I also just know that I've been in that position before, so I definitely empathize with him.
Do you think Jon Jones really wants to fight this guy, Francis Ngannou?
Oh, I don't know. I hope so. I really do. I hope so. And I definitely want to crack at him, you know? So I think for us too, Ariel, like, we spent so much time like thinking that was the fight we were going to make. And when it didn't happen, it was just like, why are we wasting our time with this guy?
Mm-hmm. If it was up to you, safe to assume that would be, I mean, obviously he has to resign and all that, but if you had the perfect next guy, would it be Jon?
100%. Yeah, definitely 100%.
Not Tyson Fury?
Well, if they want to go the boxing route first, they definitely go secure the bag, and then we'll come back. But that's kind of been the thought process is like, hey, you know what? Jon Jones is on our timetable now. So if we decide to go box or do something else in between, obviously there has to be some things worked out between the UFC and Francis. But you know, I'm down for whatever the hell they want to do, man. I'm a competitor, so I want to try to get it the best.
Well, like I said, you really represented yourself really well. I mean, unbelievably well. Even, you know, you guys doing that, you know, the media day on Wednesday, which I know is rare, and that whole drama with him and Fernand. And the two moments that really stood out to me, number one, the moment between you and Francis going into the fifth, and shout out to Dewey and the rest of the team as well, who all did a great job. And also the hug that you gave Fernand, like you can't fake that. And that was real. And you can tell how much you cared, I think says a lot about you. So congrats, Eric. Congrats to you and the entire team. A beautiful fight, a beautiful moment. What a story, coming back down, you know, 0-2 and to deal with everything that he dealt with, and to win like that, I'm actually in awe of the man right now. It's one of the gutsiest performances that I've ever seen watching this sport. So I hope you get to enjoy it for a little bit, and I believe you're right back at it with Sean Strickland in a couple of weeks. So good luck with that fight and everything else going on.
That crazy ass guy. Yeah. Thank you, Ariel. I appreciate you having me on, man. And all your support too, bro. I mean, we feel that stuff as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Talk to you soon. All the best to you in the team. There he is, one of the very best coaches in the game, Coach Eric Nicksick of Extreme Couture. How could you not be a fan of that guy, right?